is very unusual. He created something cohesively. A century later, it can expand into a language that we didn't know that we needed.
It wasn't something that you appreciated because it appealed simply to the senses.
I think he wanted the viewer to look inside themselves and see what the painting brought out in them.
It is a place to decompress and to think about bigger issues in life.
To be surrounded by these works and feel your way into a painting rather than seeing them. You can directly go to the emotions, the feeling. And that's a contribution that I think very few artists have ever reached.
These people are all reacting to the work of one artist, an artist who was raised here in Portland, Oregon.
Rothko. I've known a few people who have sat in front of Rothko for an hour, and it has literally changed their life.
From the Group Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Today, we're bringing you the story of Mark Rothko, known for his colorful, abstract paintings of stacked rectangles with billowy borders and layered textures. His art has been auctioned for up to $186 million. He was raised here in Portland, graduated from Lincoln High School's class of 1921, and his first ever solo exhibition was just a few miles from our studio at the Portland Art Museum, which is opening its Rothko Pavilion on November 20th. So, what makes a Rothko so special? OPB Oregon Art Beat producer Eric Slade made a whole documentary about Rothko, and he's here to break it all down. Eric Slade, welcome back to The Evergreen. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jen. Great to be back.
Great to have you back. So let's start off by getting into a little bit of the history here. Can you tell us some of Rothko's backstory, Rothko's origin story, please?
Sure. He was born in Dvinsk, which was part of the Russian Empire at that time. And there was this heavy military presence there. Rothko's grandfather was conscripted into the Tsar's army. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in the area. So his family knew they wouldn't last long if they stuck around. So they left for America. They arrived by steamer in Ellis Island in 1913, and they made their way all the way across country to Portland, where they actually had relatives here. And Rothko was just 9 years old when they arrived. He spoke no English, knew almost no one, so it was a rough start.
You know, a lot of people have this experience of overwhelming emotion in response to these Rothkos. I think we heard a little bit of that in the people we heard talking at the beginning of this episode. I know some people you interviewed said it gives the viewer a moment to reflect, almost like a space for meditation, which I love that idea, artwork that prompts inner reflection. His children felt he was trying to put forth philosophical ideas within his art. Here's his daughter talking about that, Kate Rothko Prezell.
I think my father's approach was really a philosophical one. When I look back at how he made his decision to become a visual artist, I think he was really searching around to look for what medium he could use to express the ideas and the emotions he wanted to convey to the public.
But it seems like everyone has like a very different experience when absorbing his art. What did you find interesting, Eric, about like the wide range of emotions and reactions people have to Rothko's artwork?
Yeah, it is really fascinating because you look at them, they're really simple rectangles. It's a very simple painting in a way, except there's a lot of depth to it, and they evoke these really deep feelings. People have very personal experiences while sitting with a Rothko painting. And, I asked everybody, almost every expert I interviewed, I asked them, how did he do that? And of course, there's no good answer to that question. It's I don't know.
It kind of feels like almost like a Rorschach test, like how you personally respond to a Rothko is like determined by your interior, right?
I think so too, but also I think it's determined by what was going on with Rothko when he painted that painting and how he could transmit what he was feeling, experiencing into that painting for us to receive. That's the magic, I think.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. So an important part of Rothko's story, I think, is his strong principles around his art and his audience. He really wanted his art to be accessible, but as I'm sure other working artists can relate to, he also needed to, make money and make a living as an artist. And these two goals are sometimes in conflict. How did that conflict play out for him?
Yeah, I mean, he was part of this very vibrant art scene in New York in the 1930s and 40s. And these are the painters that are in the middle of creating the abstract expressionist movement in America. So it's a big deal. I think they don't know it at the time. But what they do know is this is important to them. And most of them weren't making any money, but they were exploring some deep ideas and trying some brand new things. Rothko and Adolf Gottlieb had a show in 1943 where they unveiled some of this brand new work. And it was reviewed by the New York Times, which was a big deal, except it was not a good review. Oh. The Times reviewer calls their paintings obscure, among other things.
Oh, no.
But instead of just sucking it up and moving on, Rothko and Gottlieb decided to fight back. And they write a rebuttal to the Times. And the Times actually decides to print their rebuttal in full. And it's not just a rebuttal, but it becomes sort of a manifesto with their radical new ideas about art spelled out in this numbered list. And we had several people in the documentary read that point by point.
We salute this honest, we might say cordial reaction towards our obscure paintings. And we appreciate the gracious opportunity that is being offered us to present our views. We do not intend to defend our pictures. They make their own defense.
Number one, to us, art is an adventure into an unknown world which can be explored only by those willing to take the risks.
Number two, the world of the imagination is fancy-free and violently opposed to common sense.
3, it is our function as artists to make the spectator see the world our way, not his way.
Number 4, we are for flat forms because they destroy illusion and reveal truth.
Number 5,
there is no such thing
as good painting about nothing.
We assert that the subject is crucial,
which is tragic and timeless.
Sincerely yours, Adolf Gottlieb.
And Marcus Rothko.
Wow, that is so cool. Love to destroy illusion and reveal truth. And also, sorry, the voice that I heard at the beginning sounded a little familiar to me. Who was that?
That's Alfred Molina.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he actually played the part of Mark Rothko in the hit Broadway play Red, won 6 Tony Awards.
Congratulations, Alfred.
So 15 years later, in 1958, Rothko has achieved some success. And he, in fact, gets the biggest commission of his life to date to create a series of these large-scale murals inside the Four Seasons restaurant, which is this brand new fancy restaurant that's just being built in the center of New York. So this is a big deal for Rothko, for any artist. He finishes the paintings, these large murals that are going to go all around the restaurant. And then he goes to have dinner at the restaurant because it's just been completed. And he is horrified because this is a fancy, upscale Tony restaurant, people in fancy clothes having fancy foods. And he decides he wants no part of this. He does not want his paintings to be the background to people having dinner. So he cancels the commission and he returns the money. I spoke to his son, Christopher Rothko, all about this.
My father was nothing if not principled, and ultimately he cared more about the well-being of his artwork and the expressive message that he was trying to bring than the prestige of having the Seagram Commission and even the $35,000, which he sorely needed.
And as Christopher says, returning that money was a big deal. $35,000, and today's money is like $300,000, something like that. It was a lot of money, and he was still, an artist on the way up. He didn't want his work to be a backdrop for people, though. He really cared about how his work was seen. He was known, actually, this is funny. I mean, I heard this from many people. He was known to actually go to galleries and museums and adjust the lighting, against the gallerists or the curator's wishes. But he wanted his paintings to be seen in just the right way. And so this is a story that illustrates all of that.
Yeah, I admire that commitment, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, coming up after a break, we'll hear more about Rothko's upbringing in Portland and the new addition to the Portland Art Museum, the Rothko Pavilion. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you dig what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and inspiring to listen to each week. You can also follow OPB on Instagram at OPB Photo, or follow me directly at Jen Chavez OPB. That's Jen with 2 N's, and I will keep you posted on everything Team Evergreen is up to. And remember, this episode about the life and work of Mark Rothko and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. That's the beauty of public media, my friends. We could not do it without y'all. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to the show. So, Eric, how do you think Rothko's sense of place contributes to his artwork, especially as an immigrant growing up in Portland, looking for a sense of belonging?
I think it informed his entire life and informed his artwork quite a bit. Growing up in Portland, he always felt like an outcast. At Lincoln High School, he wrote a column that was critical of the school. That was his role at high school. And then he gets a full scholarship to Yale University. That's a big deal. He gets there and decides college is not for him. He drops out and moves to New York because art is really the thing he wants to pursue. But he said he never really felt at home even in New York, even anywhere in the U.S. I mean, I think he was on a constant struggle to find his place here, and that's really reflected in his struggle with his own name. I talked with Bruce Gunther, who's the former curator of the Portland Art Museum, all about this.
Rothko arrives in this country as Marcus Rothkowitz. It's an event that shapes his being his entire life. Rothko changed his name in 1940 because of an offhand comment by his dealer, who observed that she had too many Jewish artists and she couldn't offer him a show. And he realized that he could solve this problem by shortening his name to Mark Rothko, American citizen.
And I think that feeling different, feeling out of place is part of why he was able to create artwork that no one had ever seen before. And I think even in the world of art, he struggled. He tried lots of different kinds of artwork before he really found that thing we call a Rothko, that classic Rothko that we know as his work. He went through a lot of things before he got there. And in fact, I think feeling different played a part in making the work that he did. He created something that no one had ever seen before. And maybe he had to be an outsider just to be able to do that.
He was always in self-doubt mode, always struggled with his own internal voice. So when Rothko found his style, he settled in that place of belonging.
It represented the penultimate expression of that thing that Rothko had looked for his entire life. He found a place to live and celebrate and a vehicle for his anguish.
Well, yeah. Hey, I can totally relate to self-doubt mode and your own internal voice. And so I'm glad Rothko found his. So like we said earlier, Rothko's first ever solo exhibition was at the Portland Art Museum. And now they're opening up a new pavilion in his honor, which is so exciting. Please tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the Rothko Pavilion is a big deal. They've been working on this for over 10 years, and it represents a major expansion of the museum. They're adding 24,000 square feet of space, but it also connects the original museum with the Mark building, which is something they added several decades ago. But it connects those two buildings to make one big museum, which is beautiful. And for the first time, the Portland Art Museum will have a major Rothko painting on display. The family is loaning a major work that will be there all the time and then rotating out. So we get different Rothkos at different times. It's a big deal for the museum.
That is so exciting. I can't wait to check it out. And you got to see what are considered some of the greatest Rothkos in the world while making this film. Did your own perception of them shift over time as you got to experience so many different paintings of his?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Rothko's work, but I was mostly looking at them in books. And to be able to sit there in person in front of some of the best Rothkos. I mean, and it wasn't just at museums, but it's also in the Rothko family homes, like they have some of the best Rothkos on their walls of their own homes.
Wow.
Right? That's what you would do, right? Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Rothko's work, but in this project, I did get the chance to sit in front of some of the best Rothkos in the world. And it's really inexplicable how powerful they are. And I think that's the thing I take away from this experience is just the power of art. I mean, what an artist puts into a canvas can actually communicate directly to the viewer. And that, to me, is really remarkable and inspiring that art has that effect. It actually is, it works.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember anything in particular that was communicated to you by one of these paintings, like a feeling you had or an impression that you had sitting there looking at one?
It's almost beyond words, but a lot of people talk about sitting in front of a Rothko and being moved to tears. And I'm one of those people. They make me cry all the time. And I don't know what that is. And I mean, maybe that's the thing, that there are things that are inexplicable in the world and they're powerful.
I love that. I also love to cry, so relatable. It's all good. After all this time you've spent diving into Rothko's world, what are your feelings about why he and his work still matter now, are still important for us to reflect on in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I think about a lot. After Rothko died, his artwork continued to get more and more and more popular. And in fact, today it's studied more, celebrated more than ever was when he was alive. In fact, he never lived to see himself become sort of this household name. And what I love is that people are still studying his work, still examining his work, and still trying to understand what is it about a Rothko that makes us feel so deeply. And still, no one's quite understood it, but we continue to ask the question. We interviewed Mako Fujimura, who's also an artist, who you heard a few quotes from earlier. And I really like what he said. He said, we live in this chaotic world, and Rothko's work can give us a place to transcend that, to sink deeper, to be reminded of the things that really matter most in our world. And anything that can do that, I think, is valuable.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for making this cool documentary and for coming into the studio to share with us today.
Thanks, Jen. It was great talking with you.
Likewise. You can watch Eric's full Oregon Art Beat documentary at pbs.org and find more of his Rothko coverage at opb.org. We'll also drop links to both of those in our show notes. Thank you so much for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Malia Fast produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. Nalene Silva engineered the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Mia Estrada, Julie Sabatier, and Sage Van Wang. Eric Slade, Jason Longo, Michael Ben-Dixon, and Tom Schreider did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. If you have a question for us, or you want to let us know how Rothkos make you feel, or even if you just want to say hi, please reach out. Email us at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.